Fritt Fall is the oldest of the drop towers at Grona Lund. While the park has added some newer drop towers, including the highly regarded Ikaros, I actually think Fritt Fall is the best of the bunch, and I'll explain why in this review. Fritt Fall opened back in 1998 as the tallest drop tower in all of Europe. The ride lost this record shortly after it opened, but it was still mighty tall. The ride stands an impressive 262 feet or 80 meters tall. This was an Intamin giant drop with 3 sides. Originally, all 3 gondolas were sit-down carriages, but in 2004, one carriage was upgraded to have the company's newer stand-up, floorless, tilting gondolas. These gondolas could tilt 15 to 30 degrees at the top, adding a whole new element of fear. Grona Lund treats this as a separate attraction, as it has its own special name of Fritt Fall Tilt, and they have separate entrances by the ride and entries on the website. But this is not the only drop tower that can be found at Grona Lund. If you know this park, you'll know they are extremely limited on space. They have less than 10 acres to work with, so while they're limited in the X and Y directions, they have no problem building in the Z direction. So they have an affinity for tower attractions. This is why this park is basically the drop tower capital of the world. Also in 2004, Grona Lund added an S&S combo tower in Catapulten. This ride was not as tall as Fritt Fall, as it stood 180 feet or 55 meters tall, but it differentiated itself by launching guests atop the tower. Then in 2017, the park added Ikaros. This was the world's second Intamin sky jump. This ride was even taller than Fritt Fall, standing 312 feet or 95 meters tall. And it took the tilt function to the next level, as guests were tilted a full 90 degrees, so they were staring at the ground for the descent. I have an entire review already published about this ride specifically, if you want to hear more. On paper, this looks like it should be the most extreme of all the park's major drop towers, but I actually prefer Fritt Fall Tilt. I think it's a far scarier experience. Seeing all 3 of these towers, plus the even taller Eclipse, is quite the sight as you approach Grona Lund, and each looks really imposing from the ground as well. I also like the lighting package specifically given to Fritt Fall. The park illuminates the attraction in a purple hue. I also love Fritt Fall's entrance. You enter underneath a robot on the regular side. On the tilt side, you enter underneath a sign that periodically tilts, which is a nice touch given what the ride does. All 3 of the drop towers at this park seem equally as popular. They'll usually have waits hovering around the 10 to 20 minute mark. Grona Lund has begun offering the paid Jet Pass skip-the-line service in their larger rides, but Fritt Fall is the most notable attraction excluded from that service. I suspect it's due to the ride's very limited queue space. Each gondola for Fritt Fall and Fritt Fall Tilt holds just 4 riders. Despite their limited riders, the line moves at a steady rate because the park loads them quickly, and the rides have a relatively short cycle time. These 2 rides can be susceptible to wind though. I have seen this with other Intamin giant drops throughout the years, and believe the movement of the cables is the big issue. In one of my visits, ground winds reached the 15 to 20 mile per hour range by the afternoon. The tilt side closed early specifically for wind, while the regular side remained operational. I'm not sure if the tilt side is always more sensitive, or if it had something to do with the wind direction that day. I will start with the sit-down gondola experience. Riders are restrained by over-the-shoulder restraints. These are firm, but comfortable enough. These aren't the most accommodating rides out there if you're on the larger side though, but it is worth noting the sit-down seats seem to be a bit more accommodating than the tilt gondola. The ride begins by the catch car grabbing the gondola. The ascent then takes roughly 50 seconds. The first 30 seconds are slower, as you need to overcome the magnetic braking, but the last part of the climb is swift. Now let's talk about the views. They are spectacular. They are some of the best sights from any amusement ride. I prefer the views from the side to the far left of the main entrance. This one looks towards the park, the water, and the downtown area. The right side does not see as much of the park, but you do have the water and city next to you. Still super nice though. You are not held at the top for long, maybe 5 seconds maximum. The moment you drop is slightly spoiled though. The topper is fitted with cameras, and these cameras are positioned right in front of you to capture your reaction, and there's a flash a half second before you're released. The drop is still great though. It is long, and I floated the whole way down. The stomach drop was not quite as strong as some other giant drops out there, possibly because the drop moment was slightly spoiled by that camera flash, but I could still get a bit of that butterfly sensation if I was staring directly at the ground. You then hit the magnetic brakes and smoothly come to a stop at the bottom, ending the experience. But I'm going to be honest, I very rarely ride this ride. Why? I almost always ride the tilt side. The gondola is the main reason it's so special. You straddle a nub and have a large over-the-shoulder harness. Unless you're super tall, you will have several inches of clearance between your shoulders and the top of the restraint, much more so than the sit-down side. This gives much more room for airtime. The ascent takes just as long as the sit-down side, but it is noticeably more intimidating here. The moment your feet leave the ground, it is pretty terrifying. The riding position also leaves you more exposed, as your legs will helplessly dangle in the air. The view on the tilt side is even better than the two sit-down sides. You get the same great view of the water and downtown area, but I prefer the side of Gronalund that you're facing. You are staring at the park's other two drop towers and a cliffs. Seeing yourself eye level at these rides really emphasizes the height. On that note, once you reach the top, the gondola tilts forwards 15 to 30 degrees. This doesn't sound like much, but it's immensely effective. It's enough to force you to stare at the ground. This builds even more anticipation. The moment you drop is slightly spoiled once again by a camera flash though. The drop is incredible though. You'll get some wonderful floater airtime because there's so much vertical clearance. It is blissful getting that much airtime on a drop that long. Then by looking downwards, you get a good stomach drop sensation the whole way down. There is also a primal fear component. It feels like you'll smack the concrete as you rapidly approach it. Then there's another fear for guys. The only thing supporting you is a nub in between your legs, so you may be dreading what happens to your groin when you hit the brakes, aka your airtime ends and you smack back down in the seat. I always tense up instinctively as we approach the brakes, thinking the worst is about to happen, but the landing is actually smooth and comfortable. The gondola also resets to the normal orientation shortly after the braking starts. You don't really notice it on-ride, but it's very apparent off-ride. This is a small touch, but it helps with capacity. Compare that to another tilting drop tower in Acrophobia at Six Flags Over Georgia. The seats do not return to the home position until after the gondola comes to a full and complete stop. So, what would I rate Fritt Fall? Well, it depends which side I'm on. I would give the sit-down side an 8.5 out of 10. It is a really good drop tower. The views of the surrounding area are incredible, and the drop is punchy. It offers nice airtime and speed. The camera flash does spoil the shock of the release though, but it's otherwise great. But the better side is undoubtedly the tilt side. That side earns a perfect 10 out of 10. It is one of the best drop tower experiences out there. Between the stunning sightlines, fantastic airtime, and scary riding position, this ride is an absolute rush. This is easily my favorite drop tower at all of Gronalund. The power of the drop is the main reason. Catapultin offers a longer cycle, but the drop is not nearly as punchy. Icaros is an even cooler visual because of the 90-degree tilt, but it feels like you drop slower and the brakes engage much sooner. So those are my thoughts on Fritt Fall and Fritt Fall Tilt at Gronalund. Is this your favorite drop tower at this park? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.